My name is Yana, and I'm working for NIM. NIM as NIM VPN, and I hope you're already using it after Harry's and Chelsea's talk this morning. But today and now on the stage, I'm not going to present explicitly NIM, but the project which is called Women in Privacy. So what is, yay, thanks, give a turn of applause, because we are very, thank you. We are a very young project. We just started our activity a couple of months ago. And our mission is to empower women and give them tools and knowledge to navigate easily and with confidence in digital spaces, in the decentralized spaces. We also want to give more help to women in the vulnerable communities that really need our help. And also we want to create more platforms for women to share their expertise and to speak up about the key issues in the tech industry. This is what we are going to do today. And this was the official press kit presentation of Women in Privacy. How we really like to talk about with ourselves, we're just a very techie sisterhood. And we just want to bring a little bit more of feminine energy into this very, very serious tech industry. And we have already had like comments in Twitter saying, yeah, guys, why are there only women? Why is women only group? Aren't men allowed? Do you hate men? And we were like, no, we don't hate men. We do not compete with men. We do not fear men. In fact, we really love men. And just for keynote, well, I'm single, if someone's interested. Thank you so much. Yeah, so basically, we want to bring a little bit more fun and feminine energy into this industry, and we really want to talk about very serious issues. And the topic of our panel today is privacy with backdoors or without. And I welcome to the stage my ladies, and we will talk the stocky topic from the back, from the front. We will talk all about it from different perspectives, different levels, from different expertise. Ladies, please come up. Woo! Okay. So what I would like us to start today with is each of us will introduce herself really shortly to give the background, what we do, what our expertise is, and what is our stand on privacy with backdoors or without. So I, as employee of NIM and as a representative, I say that privacy cannot exist with backdoors. Do you agree? Do you agree, guys? Well, we say it cannot exist with backdoors because those backdoors will be always exploited, either by the bad guys or by the good guys, because those good guys can introduce something like state-sponsored surveillance. And this is something that we really, really hate. Now, I will give the word to our ladies. Let's start with Park. Tell us what you do and what's your point.
Hi, my name's Park. I'm the CEO of Radiant Commons. We're an advocacy organization that is looking to scale the Penumbra blockchain right now. My stance on backdoors is that if you build a system against only perpetration, you're never building for users. So you should never build a system with backdoors in mind, because if the aim of your system is to actually be useful, then that should be your core focus.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fatemeh. Thanks for having us for this panel, and thank you all for being here. I'm a lawyer qualified in Switzerland, and I work right now with the Anoma Foundation. And on the question of with or without backdoors, I mean, obviously without, I think for the same reason, and we're going to talk more about it. But privacy, even without backdoors, has a lot of vulnerabilities, and there are other ways to attack privacy. So there are already kind of some backdoors because of this, and adding more makes no sense.
Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Tuba Eldem. I'm an associate professor of political science and director of cyberspace research at Fenerbahçe University in Istanbul. I have a wide research interest, but one of them is cyberspace governance and cyber norms. And with regard to the question that we are dealing today, of course, this debate on privacy with or without backdoors centers on the main question of political science, basically the balance between the individual freedoms and national security. So states and governments around the world are pressuring the companies to enable backdoor access, to enable more effective criminal investigations. But of course, one of the recent incidents was between, I think, a few months in April. It was between Europol and WhatsApp and Signal. Europol was insisting on getting access to encrypted communications, and a similar debate occurred in the United States between Apple and FBI. But I think I agree with my colleagues here. Providing backdoors will enable authoritarian drift that we are seeing in the world today. So there is a democratic backsliding going on in the world, like the global freedom has been declined for the 17 consecutive years, and so the internet freedoms are declined for the 14th consecutive years. So providing backdoors will provide governments more power to infringe on the personal rights of individuals, and this is very important, especially in hybrid regimes, such as in Turkey, or authoritarian regimes. So I also argue privacy, of course, without backdoors.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nelly. I'm head of adoption at iExec, and I also collaborate with ENISA. ENISA is the European National Agency for Cybersecurity. I work with them as an observer to help advise on how their cybersecurity campaigns can better reach small and medium enterprises in Europe. And regarding backdoors, something that I want to bring a little different perspective is backdoors, of course, without, but backdoors are only one part of the equation. Today, I've been looking a lot about data brokers and how actually they don't need backdoors. They are operating within legal frameworks. And something that I would like to share today, it's about my takes on the data brokers and also from the point of collaborating with policymakers. I know it's not always easy, but we definitely need to work together to bring privacy where it's most needed.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Costanza, and I'm a core member at Ethereum's Worm, a decentralized and censorship-resistant, privacy-preserving communication and storage system. My background is in anthropology and law, so how anthropology shapes how human society shapes the law and the legal systems around us. And building on what you just said, all of you, I think that the question is backdoors, but there is always going to be a human component. So as long as there is a human component and there is, therefore, a single point of failure, because you can have the most privacy-preserving project, but if the person developing it is a human being and the person who's interacting with that is a human being, or like Roger said, no, I think it was Adam from Brink, say before, there is always going to be a human component that is going to make privacy failing. So the more we try to make it perfect, and we try to remove the backdoors, the better, but it's never going to be 100% safe.
Thank you, Costanza. Thank you so much. And I have already a question for you. You, as an anthropologist, why do you think surveillance is happening? And also a question to Tuba, why do you think governments are so afraid of privacy?
Do you want to go first? I'll go first. Okay. Thank you for the question. That's super interesting. So why do states hate privacy and they're trying to surveil us? Bottom line, the spoiler is that they need that to survive. They need that to control people and to build on the controlling of people. They have people working, it's people in the states. And even if you are in the state but you never opt in to be under the state, you're still bounded by the rules. Even if, I'm not American, I'm from Italy, as you can see from my accent. Still, I am bounded by US imperialism because it has so much control and so much reach over Italy, over Europe, that in a way, I'm bounded by that. And by so, I'm also subject to the anti-privacy that the US is doing when they say that nobody can use Tornado Cash, for example. Like, nobody people know that, like, a few years before, BNP Paribas, I think Goldman Sachs and others, they also did money laundering for sanctioned countries, but yeah, they pay a fine. They didn't go to jail. People can still interact with those banks, but they targeted specifically crypto projects, Blender.io, Tornado Cash, and so on. So why? Because the existence of those projects transcends boundaries, transcends jurisdictions. It is something that everything on the internet is not subject to, like you cross the border between Italy and Switzerland and you're subject to a different law. They can be harmonized, there can be extradition rules, but still you're bounded by the rules of the countries that you're physically in. When you're online, that happens in a centralized way. So if you do something on Amazon, for example, then the government can tell Amazon to shut you down. But if you do something on borderless and permissionless system, then the government cannot shut you down. They have no control over you. And that is super scary because it means that you're not operating within the rules of the country that you belong to or that your country belongs to, like in the case of Italy to the US. And that is why. Because it's dangerous for them. It threatens them. The very existence of the monopoly of violence of the state is threatened by this freedom that we are trying to build here.
Thank you so much. Valid point. Tuba, why do you think that governments are afraid of privacy?
I mean, because governments want to control. I think that's why they are afraid of privacy. And I would like to say a few things about, how this privacy or the right to privacy in the digital age have appeared on the global agenda. It was back in 2013 when it came to the agenda with the Edward Snowden's revelations about massive surveillance activities of Five Eyes Alliance. So, which included countries like United States, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. So one of the striking features or revelation of Snowden was that German Chancellor Angela Merkel's and Brazil's President Dilma Rousseff's personal communications was under control or was followed. So that's why Brazil and Germany have played the leading role in bringing this privacy topic to the global agenda. So in the United Nations in 2013, the first resolution on protecting privacy in the digital age have been accepted, and then this is followed by 2 more resolutions, and a special rapporteur has been appointed to make this agenda more prominent and to urge the states when they engage in counter-terrorism activities to pay attention to the privacy. Another implication was the adoption of data protection laws. The most comprehensive one is, of course, the European Union's general data protection regulation, which becomes like a model for all the global south countries. So, for instance, Brazil has adopted a very similar data protection law. But on the other hand, there are also now data localization laws, which are very trendy among the global south countries, as well as in the European Union countries. So I think data localization, yani the states are putting rules that are limiting the cross-border flow of data, and they are requiring the data to remain in the sovereign borders of a nation state. So this, together with the growing tech competition between China and the United States, I think creating a risk of fragmentation and what is called like splinter internet. And maybe Web3 may also provide, you know, with the censorship-resistant features, it can maybe also produce a solution for this risk.
Right. Thank you so much.
Can I add something?
Of
to
course,
this question?
Fatemeh, go ahead.
I'm not sure if governments are actually afraid of privacy. There are some that do not want privacy for sure because they want to control, and these are like the more fascist, authoritarian type of governments that are not necessarily excluding the Western governments, but they want to know what you're doing so that they can retain power and control over you. But then there is also another aspect that I want to bring into the conversation is that privacy is also generally protected in many constitutions. In actually like more than like 150 constitutions around the world, there's a right to privacy. Usually like cops cannot just enter your home, they need a warrant. These are all like very established kind of principles and rules. But then somehow financial privacy is another category and doesn't abide by the same like exception and protection that like other spheres of life have.
Thank you. I totally agree with this as well. Yeah, and then I also have a different question to you, Fatemeh, because you have experience in crypto law and privacy. So what do you think are the pros and cons of censorship, if any pros?
Pros and cons of censorship.
Yeah, well, of course, in the context of privacy, of protecting the privacy.
Okay, so I think censorship, I give a talk actually in Berlin, in East Berlin about this. I think censorship is important in general in life because we don't want to receive all of the information that are out there, so we need to, basically it's curation. We need to curate and censor what we receive and also what we give to the world. Like, I am censoring myself now, or I could just like lie on the floor and like have like say like, you know, say fuck and like all of the other things, but I am not. And so like censorship in the sense of curation, I think is very important. But then like where do we draw the line? Like when does censorship becomes a problem? And I think it's when like we're excluding, for instance, like with sanctions, we're excluding like Iranians or like a whole population based on some just political agenda without really any form of, at least for me, like ethical like reasons that would justify it. And I think these type of censorships are bad. But bottom line is like for the technology we're building, I think it's important to be able to decide what we want to be exposed to and like what we want to, like who we want to transact with and not. But that does not mean that we have to have one single like decision and governance for the entire space. It's very important to have various like governance models that co-live at the same time.
Thank you so much. I agree with you. And I have a question to Nelly, because Nelly has expertise with data brokers, and I would like to know how the companies that are collecting the data and selling it, how do they play in the context of the backdoors?
All right, that's exactly the point. So they don't need backdoors to get into our privacy, into our personal identifiable information. So data brokers, they are like the middlemen of surveillance capitalism. Is a 4 billion industry that is just simply connecting data supply with data demand. So they are also kind of fundamental part of the Web2 business model around data. And the problem is that these companies, they don't have access to all this information. And at first, it was about getting this data to create the most accurate profiles of who you are, how is your behavior, how likely are you to buy or engage in a certain product or service. But now the problem is that they are having more access to sensitive information. It's not just about your purchasing behaviors, it's health records. For example, if you have gambling problems, or if you are part of domestic abuse. So these are getting our profiles, this is getting creepier and creepier. For example, let me give you an example. In 2001, one very famous data broker, Epsilon Data Management, they had a fine of 140 million for facilitating data that led to facilitating scams for the elderly. So this is kind of the problem, that they don't need backdoors to successfully give this information for bad actors, and I think that's really, really the problem. And in case of the elderly, I feel deeply connected, because 2 years ago, I was in a police station in France because I lost my passport. I wanted to report that. And I was there waiting with other people, waiting to report a crime, when this old guy arrived, 70 years old, showing his phone, asking for the people, should I open this email? Is this dangerous? And I was like, holy shit. This guy was totally vulnerable, and the police cannot have the time to respond to these kind of requests. And they were waiting for people to actually report this crime. So that broke my heart. But at the same time, makes me very happy being a part of a community that we're doing something, to solve this. And I do think that the best asset that we have is right here, right now, is every one of us. All our ideas, our protocols, our products, our services, we can use this to bring privacy where it's most needed. And together as a community, we can create this digitally fearless society.
Hear, hear. Thank you so much. Yeah,
I want to add to that, because I think that privacy has kind of become like a four-letter word. Right? It's like you hear privacy and you kind of think of it as like a negative word. Maybe there's criminals participating in it and something like that. There's a bunch of better words that can be used to describe really what it is that people want, which is data protection and consent to the use of your data. And if we're building software, if we're building user experiences that allow people to consent to how their data is used, then we're building technology that gives people agency to decide how it is that the information that they put out there can be utilized by data brokers or anything like that. So really the biggest issue with Web 2 that we've had up to this point is that this hasn't been built into any of the software that people interact with up front, right? You just kind of put it out there, you put things on Facebook, you don't really think about whether or not it's going to be public. You're going to put it on Instagram, on your Twitter, and historically this has been the continuous problem with every social media platform that's been built, or with health records or anything like these things. They get put out and they're public first, and then you have to choose to opt into privacy. What Web3 should be giving you, and this is really where our paradigm should be shifting, is it should not be a choice as to whether or not you want to be private. It should be a choice as to whether or not you want to be public. And that's where the big shift should be.
And there's a big shift actually happening in the legal side of things. It's because right now, surveillance capitalism and everything you mentioned is made possible because data is seen just as a good, and this good can be bought and sold, and once it's outside of your sphere of control, it's kind of gone. So European Union is trying to change this. There's the right to be forgotten, which is actually another topic, but contentious point with blockchains, where it cannot necessarily be enforced. And I forgot my point. Oh yes, the legal shift. So basically there are debates right now happening, and mainly in Switzerland, and they are pushed by the Pirate Party. But it's about making data not a good that you can own or sell, but part of your identity and your integrity. So the same way physical integrity is protected, so no one can come and like hit you, or no, you shouldn't, at least, and like there are rules and laws around this. No one can come and like talk shit about you. There are also rules that protect your mental integrity. There should be rules that protect our data integrity. So as soon as there's this shift where data becomes part of us, like we can maybe like rent it out, but we can also like decide all of a sudden that no, we wanna like retrieve our consent, and people would have to respect this. So I think that in order for all of this tech, the way like we're discussing, for it to work, we also need to have a cultural discussion and push for kind of this change in laws. And to finish, like the Swiss government, like there's multiple constitutions in Switzerland. There's the main Swiss federal constitution, and then each state or canton has its own constitution. And some of the cantons already adopted this, data being part of your integrity. But then on the federal level, they refused because they said that it is already implied. But nonetheless, this is a conversation we should be having.
Can I ask a question to Fatih? Because to implement that, I guess you have three main actors. You have all the state apparatus. You have people like you that want that to happen. But then you have AWS, you have Google, you have all those data giants that are going to be so against that. Because the literally business model is to exploit your data. So how do you see that coming to life and winning over the lobbying and the resistance that those giants are going to put to that?
I think it depends on the country. So there are like places like the US where private lobbying is very strong, and this may be harder because like the whole capitalistic system depends a lot on this access to data. But then like in Europe, I think it's a good example, or like in other countries where I think it's less, they are less powerful, and they can, like, I think privacy is also more understood and accepted as something normal. But I just think we should do the work. I mean, we shouldn't be afraid of this big tech, and they will always find a way to monetize something. Like, I'm not worried about them.
If I can rebut that, because I think you're right. In a previous life, I make a disclaimer, I used to work for Oracle, one of the bad, evil players. And when GDPR came out, Oracle monetized that. Like, it was like, oh, that's cool. So we can like even sell like more data controlling things. We just like brand them as GDPR compliant. And most of the people, most of the companies, especially the smaller one, didn't have time to read about GDPR, to analyze it, or to know nothing. So Oracle, what was doing was bullying them into buying their privacy-preserving, GDPR-compliant softwares. So that was still not true freedom. It was like some sort of like fake bullying kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure that the same is happening.
There's another angle we can take, which is national security, to push the same argument. Basically, if our data is more protected than the government, like citizen and like its own data is also more protected in case there is any form of like mass attack or like any form of big conflict, then because they have already these laws in place and these systems in place, then they're gonna be also more resilient.
Thank you so much. Guys, we are almost out of time, but I have one last killer question. So what would you answer if they ask you, but what if bad people use your product? Park, go.
This is a great question, and I'm sure everyone is very excited to answer this question. The truth is, you have to, one of the best models that you can take for making sure that your software is used by the right people is by making sure that they are your first users, right? You take a straight path towards legitimacy by, the most important currency is legitimacy. So building software that can be used by anyone, but that is seeking legitimacy up front should take the journey of focusing on being legitimate up front. And how you do that is by focusing on the users that you want to reflect your legitimacy. So while people can say, yeah, like there could be bad actors, and you know, like you can say the same thing about a hammer, right? If you are holding a hammer in your hands, I can choose to hammer in a nail. I could also choose to use it for other things. And we're not going to get rid of hammers because some people could use hammers in really bad ways. So that's what I would kind of say there.
Thank you, smart answer. Fatemeh, what would you say?
I'm just going to say, what about all the good people?
Yes, exactly. What about all the good people who need that? Tuba, what would you answer?
I think I would like to highlight the problems associated with this dual-used products, like global, like spyware, which is related also to surveillance. This global spyware industry is not regulated at all. And it creates, you know, an opportunity for the authoritarian governments to expand their intrusion and repression to transborder areas. For instance, one of the most well-known incidents maybe was the Jamal Khashoggi, we call Khashoggi, but Jamal Khashoggi, Saudi Arabian journalist who was killed in Istanbul in 2018 in the Saudi consulate. And the investigation done by the Turkish authorities has shown that the Saudi government has infiltrated the telephone of the journalist, and that's why engage in this incident. But also this is not limited only with the authoritarian governments. Yes, United Arab Emirates and China in the Uyghur case is doing it, but also even the democratic governments such as Hungary, Greece, Portugal, Spain are also using this spyware to infiltrate to political opposition. So what I would say, in the beginning of my talk, I was underlining that, you know, the mass surveillance conducted by the major powers, but today this unregulated industry provides opportunity to any state to expand their surveillance and also engage in this threat against the life and liberty of individuals across the borders. So I would like to call for more regulation in the area of spyware and surveillance tech.
Thank you. Nelly.
Okay, so I'm going to share here a secret sauce that I prove. It's been very successful when dealing with creating software and educational campaigns about privacy. So I've been practicing SDT, so self-determination theory, which stands that in order to convince a human to do something, you need to fulfill 3 basic needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So if you apply this to educational campaigns of products, you need to make the people, that they are in control of what's going on, that they have the skills to deal with it, and also that they can relate to the problem that you're solving. So we apply this theory to an educational campaign to a Web2 audience, explaining Web3, also explaining data privacy and how confidential computing can help solve this problem. And in the end, we give a practical example of how to use a product to monetize your email address. We're keeping privacy. And it was pretty successful, and we have 1.3 million people completing the class.
How many of them were bad actors?
I don't know, have access to that information.
Okay, it's just a joke. Costanza, what if bad people use the privacy-preserving tools?
Before, in the talk before, I don't know how many people were here, Roger said that good people will use Tor, good people will use the software, bad people will also use the software. But the law enforcement, the people that are supposed to make us safe, they have way more tools at their disposal than we have. So we need to be able to make sure that we are empowered, that the people that have no freedoms are empowered, the people that are more vulnerable are empowered. It's not, can I make an analogy? We get out of here in the real world. We go to a bank, there is a robbery, and the robber escapes. And an ambulance comes and takes all the injured people to the hospital. Now, what do? We do not build highways and infrastructures because bad people can use them, or we build infrastructure and then we try to code the bad people. Because that's the same, I think.
Yes, thank you. And maybe I will also answer this question because I get asked it very often when I present NIM. So basically, what I want now to answer, if people ask me, what if bad people use NIM, I would say I would just cite Phil Zimmerman, who said that if privacy remains outlawed, only the outlaws will have the privacy. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you.
So, and the last note, guys, please support our initiative. Ladies who want to join us, we're here for you, approach us. Guys who want to talk about privacy, also reach out to us because we are open to all kinds of communication. If you want to talk about privacy with me personally, you'll find me in Bumble. Thank you.
Thank you.